Animation, y'all! That's right, I attended Animation, y'all, the first animation expo in Nashville, Tennessee. Presented by Tom and Tony Bancroft and hosted at Lipscomb University, the expo did not disappoint in being essentially the Comic-Con for animators. I must say, the expo did not disappoint, and I'm eager to talk about my experience at the event. I will essentially highlight all the panels and exhibits that I attended. Obviously, I couldn't attend everything because some of the panels overlapped, or some of them just didn't apply to me. Anyway, here we go. The first panel that I attended was the Faith in Animation panel, moderated by Tony Bancroft, and with guest speakers Chris Wall, John Pomeroy, Mike Nawrocki, and Tom Bancroft. The main subject was how to exercise your faith with your passion. Chris Wall talked about his experience working on VeggieTales and the launching of the Wingfeather saga. He was friends with Andrew Peterson, the author of the novels, and he was just so inspired that he wanted to make it into a TV show. He had a lot of trouble selling it. Christian distributors were not very interested because it wasn't overtly Christian. God's not mentioned by name, there's magic in the show, and there's talking lizards. So for those reasons, they were not very interested. It seems very similar to Narnia. Secular outlets actually didn't like it because they actually thought it was too conservative. So he had a lot of trouble finding distribution. Eventually, he just did a Kickstarter campaign and basically reached out to the fans and the public at large to get support for the show. Initially started airing on YouTube, and then eventually was picked up by Angel Studios. There were also some industry stories about sharing your faith, especially surrounding Glenn Keane and the impact he had on his co-workers. A big highlight was Mike Nawrocki, who is known as the co-creator of VeggieTales and the voice of Larry the Cucumber. He talked about his personal story about how he initially thought he was going to be a missionary doctor, and then he was called into the field of entertainment. And he was greatly surprised by how much he was able to reach out to people by following his passion and following his faith at the same time. He was also there to promote his latest series, Dead Sea Squirrels, which is available to stream on Minnow. And of course, when the panel ended, I just had to have him sign a video cassette for me. Thanks, Mike. Another panel that I attended was The Artist's Mind, The Secret to Success. The guest speaker was Steven Silver, who worked on Kim Possible and Danny Phantom. Basically, he gave a whole big motivational speech about how to be successful in the art world. I also had the privilege of attending the Aaron Blaise panel, where he told his personal story, and talked about his professional career at both Hollywood Disney and the studio in Florida. He talked about many of the sequences he worked on in Beauty and the Beast and Mulan. He also talked about his experience directing Brother Bear, and how it really fed into his passions of nature and animal life. He also talked about the death of his wife from cancer and how that really impacted him. He spent a number of years struggling and trying to find himself again. He would eventually come up with a new online course to teach art classes. I was also able to meet him at his exhibit and thank him for his review of the Wacom Cintiq, the same product that I purchased so that I could get more into cartoon animation. While I was there, I was able to purchase his book of artwork. The last panel I attended on Saturday was the Wingfeather Saga panel. Chris Wall and crew discussed the unique approach to the production of the series. They used Maya on the first 2 seasons. For the third seasons, they completely relied on Unreal Engine. The goal from the beginning was to produce animation that could hold up years from now, which is why they went for the painterly look that you see in the show. One thing that was great about the expo is that I was also able to get a free art book for Season 1 of the Wingfeather Saga. I also had Chris Wall sign it when I had the opportunity. On Sunday, I attended the panel hosted by Lauren Barger, Amanda McFarlane, and Whitney Pollett. They basically talked about the work and life balance, and they also encouraged people how to promote their work on the internet. The big takeaway for me is that I should probably start an Instagram account and enter into more art competitions. My favorite panel by far was the Light of the World panel. It was hosted by Chris Wall, and he had the guest speakers of John Schaefer, Tom Bancroft, Tony Bancroft, and Pam Darley. The entire project actually started with Pencilish Studios providing an animation test. As the feature film was being developed, they were trying to figure out how to tell the gospel story from a new perspective. They settled on John, and initially it was going to be told from an older John, looking back on it. This was changed to tell through the eyes of a young John. The team emphasized that they did the research and found that the apostles could have been younger than presented in previous adaptations. Taylor Parrish, an exhibitor at the expo, did all the storyboarding for the film, her first feature film. Production was done overseas in Kilkenny, Ireland at Lighthouse Studios. Both saved and unsaved people worked on the film. Many of them didn't know much about Jesus. One profound statement that stuck out from someone on the crew was that they said, "We see the news, we know what you're against, We don't know what you stand for. This greatly convicted the filmmakers on how to tell the story. The film also has an evangelical purpose. In addition to being screened at theaters, it will also be screened in places where people have not heard about Jesus. What was really great about this panel is that they also showed a clip from the film, with all the finished animation. The clip was the adaptation of the wedding in Cana, where Jesus turns water into grape juice. I'm kidding, he turns water into wine. It's wine. There was one thing that really stood out from an entertainment perspective. As soon as they all learn that the wine has run out in the wedding, Mary looks over at Jesus, and Jesus' eyes just bulge for a split second, and his expression reads, "Mom, why are you looking at me like that?" And of course, Jesus turns the water into wine, and this wins over Andrew and John to be his disciples. The last panel that I attended that weekend was Visual Development, What Is It? It was hosted by Chris Sonnenberg, with guest speakers Chris Brock and Shannon Halstein. The artist talked about what's involved with being a visual artist, and how they have to basically design all the sets and props, and the overall mood of the entire project. When I was not attending the panels, I was visiting the exhibits. Some of the exhibitors also spoke at the panels, so I'm going to focus ones I have not discussed yet. Pencil-ish Studios was one of the sponsors at the expo, so naturally I had to go to their table. After all, I first heard about this expo from the Bancroft Brothers podcast featured on their YouTube channel. I managed to get myself a nice flipbook and a t-shirt. Sketch Wallet was also a sponsor of the expo. Initially, I stubbed my nose at the Sketch Wallet, but then when I took a closer look, I'm like, holy cow, this is like an actual wallet. Only there's a sketchbook inside. I decided to purchase it. The Bancroft Brothers also had their table where they were selling animation drawings. However, I was running out of money, so I decided to purchase Outnumbered instead. Tim Hodge is proof that I probably should have done more research before even attending the expo, because obviously I would have had him sign another VeggieTales video cassette. Instead, I purchased a sketch of a character he voiced in Jonah, a VeggieTales movie. Jordan Curley was there to promote his new show, Kelly and Friends, and he talked about his journey of pitching the show to different studios. Skybone Studios was there to promote their work and to get in touch with other artists. Whale Animation was there to promote their latest short film, Splash. It's available to watch on YouTube, and it is very adorable. Matthew O'Callahan was there. He's known for working on The Little Mermaid. He was also selling flipbooks for a sequence he did on the movie. John Desk was there promoting his new film, Exodus. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it looks really good, very much inspired by Studio Ghibli. Lauren Sora was there to promote her latest graphic novel, Sky Cowboys. It sounds really cool. I also bought this comic book by her, called Barn Yarns. There was also Daniel Haycox, who worked on the Wingfeather saga. He was also promoting his own work, very much inspired by Don Bluth. Again, these are just some of the highlights. There are many exhibitors showing amazing work, and they can all be found on the Animation Y'all website. Overall, I really enjoyed this first year of Animation Y'all, and I'm already making plans for next year. I can't wait.